Well, I'm told we're full in here, so we might as well get started. Welcome to Weatherford College. We're glad you're here today. We have students, we have visitors, we have co-presenters, and it is a pleasure to have you here for the fourth annual Interdisciplinary Academic Conference at Weatherford College. I'm Brent Baker, and I have the pleasure of getting to introduce our keynote speaker to start our day off today, and it's Mr. Steve Fox. He's the owner of the Fox Auto Team of El Paso. From his humble beginnings in Roswell, New Mexico, which included a community college education, he now operates a company of 230 employees that last year alone made over $260 million in sales. Over the years, he's worked with a variety of automobile manufacturers, served on numerous industry councils over the years, most notably on the Toyota National Dealer Council for the past 9 years. He was elected to the El Paso Business Hall of Fame. Just last year, awarded the New Mexico Medal of Merit. That's the highest civilian award that is given by New Mexico's governor. He serves on numerous boards in El Paso, but a great deal of his philanthropy revolves around health care. He is a stage 4 cancer survivor. I'm sure we'll hear about that in a minute. He's also an advocate and friend for cancer patients. He's an active volunteer at MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the best in the world. For his entire life, his lobby and passion has been motorcycle racing. I want to hear about that too. In 2004, he won the World Off-Road Racing Championship in the over 40 class. And last year won the New Mexico Desert Series Championship in the over 50 class. Please bring a warm welcome to President Steve Fox.
Well, thank you all. Can you hear me okay? I'm always kind of concerned if this microphone's working correctly for me or not. I'm very honored to be here today, and I'm very appreciative of all of you taking this opportunity to come and hear what I might say. I was asked earlier, do I want to make an announcement about turning off the cell phones? And I say no. I say that it's my responsibility and challenge to be more interesting than Instagram. And so that's the bar that's been raised, and I accept that challenge. I tried to prepare for this. I normally speak from the heart. I do have notes, and I will be referring to them. But my presentation is here today because I feel very privileged and honored to have had the wonderful life I've lived. I hopefully have much more to go and do. But one of the things that as you grow older, you become aware that you have a chance to give back. And then they talked about my philosophy.
The screen on the other room went off.
Being a cancer survivor, that was a moment I don't wish upon anybody, but it gave me a chance to reevaluate what's important. And relationships and people are truly the most important thing. So with that being said, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'm married to my wife, Nancy Gorman Fox. We've been married 38 years. I have two wonderful daughters, Paige Ortiz, who is following me in the car dealership, and she's taking over the reins, which I'm very grateful for. And then I have a daughter, Ashley Fox, who is a counselor in Nashville, Tennessee. She's a counselor because she's trying to figure me out. So we wish her well on that journey and that mission. So today there's really two parts to my presentation. I'm going to talk to you about my early beginning and what the community college experience meant to me. And then I really want to try to focus on some things that I've learned in my career that I might share a few thoughts or characteristics or traits that you can apply to your life to help you in your journey, to help you become successful in your personal goals and dreams. I will tell you that it's important that you separate yourself from the pack, that there's a lot of competition in the world, no matter whether you're in the car business or you're in the insurance business, you're going to be a competitor in life. So you heard about my motorcycle racing. I'm a competitor. I've been a competitor my whole life. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But in my introduction that was sent out to you, there's two key points that were made. One, it talks about picking up the broom. And I will elaborate on that. Picking up the broom is really an actual event in my life that changed my life, and it happened when I was 15 years old. So and that's an actual thing that happened, but I think I refer to it as a pick up a broom moment. There are moments in your life where you can take charge of your life and you can make a difference. No one else can do it for you. You have to do it. But you got to have the courage to pick up the broom. Now, as I go through this presentation today, I talk about a lot of great things that occurred, but I got to tell you, the road has not always been smooth. There's been lots of bumps, and there's been lots of failures. And I think if you do anything great and significant in your life, you got to have the ability and the courage to overcome disappointment. You got to have the courage to overcome failure. And then you have to be able to not listen to the negative voices in the world. They're always telling you you're crazy and telling you wrong. Sometimes the voices are right, but you take them as just counsel. Don't really focus on them. So, like many of you, probably, I come from a very modest background. I talked about how I think it was an advantage. My parents were, they weren't well educated. They're very, very smart. There's a perception that education means you're smart. Education means you're educated. It doesn't mean you're smart. Well, I know a lot of well-educated people. I don't think they're that smart person. And then I know a lot of people like my parents who weren't well-educated. Neither one of them finished high school. But they were brilliant. But what they taught me, and one of the advantages that I took from them, was I learned a work ethic. Because they didn't have it easy. They didn't have it easy in their childhood. But they taught me how to work, they taught me how to take responsibility, and they taught me right from wrong. In fact, one of the things that I learned from my father was don't feel sorry for yourself. My father was a disabled vet from World War II, and when I was a little boy, I didn't really recognize, I'm a baby boomer, post-World War II, so it was a very common experience. And all my friends, moms and dads, it was very common. It's not like today, very few people actually serve, and I salute all of those who serve. There may be some veterans in here, but it used to be different. There used to be a huge portion of the population that served, so the fact that my father had served was not really unique or different. What was unique was he was a disabled vet, and I remember as a small boy when I was about 6 or 7, for the first time in my life, I noticed something was wrong with his leg. And I would see him at night take his pants off, have his shorts on, and he would unwrap his leg with his, had an ace bandage on it, and he started rubbing ointment on it. And so I remember saying, "Hey, Dad, what's wrong with your leg?" My dad just kind of chuckled. He said, I got shot. Well, I've been watching Gunsmoke and stuff like that, so I said, "Who shot you?" He says, "The Germans shot me." And I felt really sorry for myself. "Dad," I said, "I'm so sorry." And he just started laughing. I said, "Well, why are you laughing?" He said, "Oh, son, you don't know how lucky I am." I said, "Why are you lucky?" He says, "All my friends got killed." He says, "I'm the lucky one." So I learned from him at an early age to be grateful for what you have and not focus on what you don't have. So each of you, I know your parents, and I don't know your relationship with your parents, but they've taught you. Now, some of the things they've taught you may have been wrong, but if you were paying attention, you learned from them. So I'm very grateful for that modest beginning, but also with that modest beginning, my parents, not either one of them finishing high school, we never really talked about education. In fact, my brother, who I'm very, very proud of, he's a retired brigadier general, really did really well in school. When we talk about this, we both became very successful, and we sometimes question what motivated us, how did we do it? And we can't really put our finger on it, but we do think that we recognize, coming from a modest background, that it was up to us. I think that there's nothing wrong coming from an affluent background. I think that's really a blessing if you come from an affluent background. But it changes your perspective on life, because, like my daughter Paige, who's taking over the business, she's very hardworking, she's very diligent, she's really worked to prepare herself, puts in long hours. Now she has to grow the business from where it is and take it somewhere else, so it's not without responsibility, but she does have a head start that most of us don't have, and I didn't have. But if you come from a modest background and you know, you think, how am I going to get ahead? And that's one of the reasons why I'm grateful for that particular beginning. You know, sometimes when I would talk to my parents, I think their expectation really was for me to get a high school diploma, and that they considered that excellent for their time and place. But I somehow was aware that there was more, that I needed to do more. When I was in high school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. One of the things that was on my mind and all my friends in my generation was the Vietnam War was very active, and the draft was really taking a lot of my friends. And basically, prior to the draft lottery, which was started in December 1969, if you were not going to college and you were healthy, you stood a good chance of being drafted. And I was in Chaves County, New Mexico, so they would give you a draft notice to about 25 to 30% of the young people like me. But of those, they all didn't go, and they all didn't get drafted. But that was weighing on my mind, and it weighed on a lot of our minds, because you think, well, you know, if I'm going to get drafted, you know, should I go ahead and go to college? And a lot of kids were motivated to go to college simply because it gave them a deferment. But I didn't really think that through, and so I don't know if that was an excuse or a reality, but I just kind of didn't deal with it. I didn't really think about it. I just thought, I'm going to see what happens. And then I was very, very fortunate, very blessed. They started the lottery system, and so, and when I was 18 years old, I went and registered, and when the lottery came out that year, I had a very high lottery number, so it meant I wasn't going to be drafted. So now I'm 18 years old, and you know, now I stand before you today, a very successful businessman. But I'm going to tell you, when I was 18 years old, I was 18 years old. I mean, I was clueless. You know, it was all about Friday night. You know, I mean, I just want to make enough money to make it Friday night. So I wasn't sure what to do. And one of the things I will suggest to you today is try to always have a mentor in your life, someone that you can confide in, that will tell you the truth, even if it hurts. You need a mentor that can tell you you're right or you're wrong, or if they don't tell you you're right or wrong, think about this. And for me, my mentor was my brother, who at that time was in the Army. And I approached my brother and I said, what do I do? You know, I mean, I'm at the crossroads. Should I go ahead and enlist and join up, or what do I do? And my brother, who was serving, and of course, our family, we have a lot of members of our family that had served, and actually were disabled vets from World War II. And my brother said, you know, Steve, our family, we're doing our part. I'm doing the part. You go to school. So now I'm 18 years old. I'm out of high school. It's like August, and my brother says, go to school. I haven't applied anywhere. You know, the only option to me was the local community college. Now, I'm very, very fortunate. The Roswell Community College was very accessible. And the other thing it had, it was affordable. So when I was young, and this is kind of a blessing in a way, there was no such thing as a student loan. You know, so you know, I'm amazed at how many young college students today acquire huge debt getting a college education. And I'm not here to argue right or wrong. I'm just saying that wasn't an option for me. My option was I needed to work because I had to pay for my own way, but I didn't want to better myself. So I enrolled in Roswell Community College. And a very amazing thing happened while I was at Roswell Community College. I started growing up. And I started growing up because of my peers. Because when I was in high school, I was around a lot of other immature young guys like myself that school was a joke, and we just wanted to go drag our cars on the weekend and, buy a six-pack of beer or, do whatever. But when I went to the community college, it was a different atmosphere because everyone at that community college had to write a check. Mom and Dad didn't make them go. They were there because they wanted to be there, because they were concerned about their future. And that environment and my peers from the community college was a very positive influence on me.
That's good.
I know some of my friends that went to TCU or UT and SU. I would have loved to have done that. The only thing I know about those colleges is what I learned from the movie Animal House. I never went to a big school, so I don't know. But I know a lot of them flocked out and came back to community college, so I think there might be a story there. But I really, really loved my community college experience because the classes were small, and I was a very engaged person. I wanted to ask questions. If I got engaged, and I got tuned in, I wanted to talk to the professor or the instructor. And you know what? I was able to do that at my community college. It was a really great experience for me. I took night courses. They were 3 hours, 3-hour courses, 4 nights a week. So I carried a 12-hour load and I worked full time. But you know what? My professors realized that too. They appreciated and respected what the students were going through. I mean, they weren't unreasonable. If you came in 10 or 15 minutes late, they knew you were being disrespectful. They knew that you worked. They knew you. They knew you as an individual. And so when I talk about one of the things I want to share with you, I think there's a real advantage to having a community college experience. I think the quality of the education is really on par or maybe superior because of the size of the classes and the quality of the instructors who really care about you and they're willing to listen to you and you're important. So I congratulate all of you on being part of the community college experience. I was talking earlier to Brent Baker, and I told him that I was so engaged and really enjoying the classes that I was just clicking off hours working. I had my routine, and one day the president of the university, Dr. Kitchens, sent a note, wanted to see me. Well, I mean, in high school, I used to have to go see the principal, but I knew why I had to go see the principal. I deserved to go see the principal. For the president of the community college wanted to see me, I didn't do anything. So I go to see him, and Dr. Kitchens says, "Steve, how are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great, Dr. Kitchens. Why am I here?" He said, "Well, do you realize this is a junior college?" "Yes, sir, I do. I know it's a junior college." He said, "You have 100 credit hours. You need to go away." So this is before, and boy, I tell you what, I am stubborn. I said, yeah, but Dr. Kitchens, through the extension courses, I can get a bachelor's degree. He said, "No, you can't." I said, "Yes, I can." He said, "No, you can't." So being stubborn, I wrote Senator, I wrote the Board of Regents, I wrote the Governor of New Mexico. After about 3 months, Dr. Kitchens calls me back in and says, "Good try." He says, "You have to go away. Or you can attend and take courses, but no more credit hours." I said, "Dr. Kitchens," says, "Steve, I'm going to tell you, you're a smart guy, I'm going to tell you why." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Money." He says, we have a campus in Portales, New Mexico, that the dormitories are only 50% occupied. You have scared the dickens out of all of us. We can't let this happen." The good news is I have now found out that Roswell campus does allow you to go on and get a bachelor's degree. And I found out today that you can do the same thing here. It may or may not be the application you're looking for. But I share this story because I think one of the stories I want to share with you is that I truly loved and appreciated my community college experience. And then second thing is, as you're going through life, you need to have a plan. See, I didn't really have a plan. You know, I had an assumption that I could get my bachelor's degree, but I didn't check with anybody. I didn't check with any of the authorities. So one of the points I want to share with you today is, as you go through life, you have a plan, validate that your plan is possible. I made an error there. I had not validated that plan. So that's sort of a little backdrop on my family, my early beginnings. I do want to share some things with you, some traits and some things I've experienced in life that I think separates, because I said you need to separate yourself from the pack. I want to share some things that I've learned that will help separate yourself from the pack. I will share with you too that in the 80s, I'm a sales manager, general manager of a Mercedes-Benz dealership. And Mercedes-Benz nationally recognized that I had certain characteristics and traits that was helping to separate me from the pack. So they handpicked 10 or 12 of us from around the country, and they flew us to a real high-powered organization in Kansas City. And we spent a week there, and these are brilliant people, and they studied us, and they're trying to, like laboratory rats, they're trying to figure out what makes them tick. So at the end of that week, they did an exit summary with me, and they pointed out some of the things I'm going to share with you today that I do really, really well. But what was difficult for me to digest, they also shared with me some things that I don't do well. And I learned from that. I'm going to share with you first one of the things they shared with me that I have not done well in my life and my career, and I want to just give you a warning on that. When you become really goal-oriented and you really become passionate and focused on something, what I would do, I would become so fixated on my goal that I would become rude and so overpowering, I would run over people. That wasn't what I meant to do. I was totally unaware of it. You know, I would do things like, when someone would try to bring an idea to me, I always thought I had a better idea. Oh, that won't work. We got to do my idea. So what I'm sharing with you is that be aware that if you want to be a leader, you want to be a manager, and you want to build a team, even though you may be passionate, not everybody around you may have the same passion, you need to learn how to take a deep breath, calm yourself down, and listen to what the people around you have to say. Because what I found by doing that, I had a lot of smart people around me. They actually had better plans and better ideas than I did. And when I started doing that, it really accelerated my success. So that is my disclosure up front. I didn't do everything right. That was one of the things I learned. How to become a better team player and manager is by being more respectful of everyone around you. And that applies to life in general. Well, you know, what are some of the traits that I've seen, not only in myself, but in other people I've worked with, that gives you an advantage? You know, I mentioned this word to you a couple times before, but you need to be passionate. You can't be lukewarm. If you're lukewarm, you know, that's lukewarm. You're going to have burning passion in anything you want to do if you want to do it well. You know, when I was young and I was in high school, I had no passion. When I was going through my community college, I started developing a passion. But, you know, one of my early passions, by the way, was baseball. I was so passionate about baseball. I mean, I remember being 7 years old, and at a park nearby where we lived, kids were playing baseball, and I ran out there with my mitt, and I wanted to play, and the coach said, whoa, 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 you can't play. I said, why can't I play? He says, first of all, you're not 8 years old. I said, yeah, but I'm better than all these guys. He said, doesn't matter. He said, you got to be part of the Little League. How do I be part of the Little League? He said, your parents have to sign you. I was so passionate. I went back to my parents, and every day I wore them out to the next year. I was in Little League. So, I mean, that was a passion I had. My parents didn't drag me to Little League. You couldn't stop me from going. The second thing I want to talk to you about that's important, and this is not politically always correct, but you should develop a taste and a hate to lose. Do not develop an appetite to lose. Don't be, I'm not saying be a poor sport, but don't accept second place. Now sometimes you get second place, and I've gotten second place more times than I've gotten first place. You gotta want it so bad that it's just second place is not acceptable. I think you can overdo it. Now, I'll have to tell you one of my Little League experience. My brother reminds me of this. So we're playing Pee Wee baseball. I'm 8 years old, and our team is smoking good. I mean, we're winning every game. I'm hitting triples, doubles. At the end of the game, we shake everybody's hand, and we go get a snow cone. All of a sudden, we lose a game. So everybody's getting ready to get lined up to go get a snow cone. Little Steve, I'm bawling like a baby. My parents are there. I run home. I am so upset. I run home. And my parents come home looking for me. My brother finds me. I'm under the bed. So I'm going to tell you, I've never developed a taste for losing, but I no longer crawl under the bed. But my point is, you got to have that competitive spirit. I mean, you know, you don't have to have competitive spirits in everything you do in life. But if you're going to be in the business world, you need to have that competitive spirit. You know, and if you want to win, it's not everybody shows up, they want to win. It's the preparation you do, you know. I mean, you hear that from football coaches, you hear from baseball coaches. But when you're in the business world, you don't really have a coach. You got to determine, am I going to do what it takes to win? So one of the things I share, be passionate and develop a winning attitude. Even though you don't always win, you know, one of the things that we mentioned, I raced and I won some championships, but more times than not, I didn't win. But what I always tried to do was my best. So I think the way you deal with not winning is the peace of mind you get when you know you did your very, very best. And whoever beat you because they were better, and that's okay. But when you get beat or someone outsells you and you didn't do your best, that's when it shouldn't be okay. You know, the only time it's okay, if you did your best and that's all you got, that's okay. But don't be okay because you didn't put out the effort. You know, I have salespeople come to me, and I've mentored lots of people in the car business, and I always ask them a question. I said, are you doing your best? They said, what do you mean are you doing it? Well, am I doing my best? I said, are you doing the things we shared with you? Are you doing your follow-ups? And a lot of times the people who aren't succeeding, it's very simple. They're not doing the basics. So, you know, and put it to, you know, what you're doing here in school. You want an A. Are you doing what it takes to get an A? Are you doing your homework? Are you doing your preparation? If you are, then you'll probably get an A. If you're not, you're probably going to get a C. But it's not your professor's fault, right? So there's no reason to counsel with your professor. You know, I didn't do my homework. I remember not doing my homework in high school, and I was happy to get a C. I didn't want to put out the effort to do it. But that was on me. It wasn't my instructor's fault. Same thing in business. It's all upon you. And it's on life. It's upon you. You know, what do you really want? So I want to talk to you now about a turning point in my life. When I was 15 years old, you know, in New Mexico you get a driver's license when you're 15, and I had a driver's license, and I had a motorcycle, but I wanted a car and couldn't afford a car. But our next door neighbor had passed away, and he had a 1960 Volkswagen Beetle, and his family came to close out the estate, and I was very, very fortunate. My parents helped me. I sold my motorcycle. I bought this 1960 Beetle for $500. And, you know, man, I was in heaven. I mean, you talk about passion. I had wheels, you know, and I had windows, and I didn't freeze to death all the time, you know. It didn't have much of a heater. If any of you ever drove an old Volkswagen, you know, they really didn't have heaters. But anyway, I was really thrilled. And so I'm driving this Beetle, and all of a sudden I started having some mechanical issues. And of course, I'm working at a drugstore at the time as a stock boy, and I don't have much money, and I need to get some work done on my car. And I hear about this independent Volkswagen shop called the Bookshop. So I'm 15 years old, and I'm really nervous. You know, it's intimidating going to a car dealership. I know that. It's intimidating going to a used car lot. It's intimidating. It's better today. It used to be bad, and I can tell you it was bad for some good reasons. You know, I won't disclose. But anyway, yeah, so I'm 15. I go to this Volkswagen dealership, and I tell the guy that's writing my ticket, who happened to be the owner, what was wrong with my car. He said, okay. He said, come back, pick it up tomorrow. So, I mean, I'm really in awe because I love cars, and I kind of look into the shop. And so I come back the next day, and I'm standing in the shop door, and my car's not ready. And I'm 15 years old, and for me, that was my first glimpse of what heaven looks like. They had the rock and roll music on the AM radio playing. The guys working on the car all had long hair. They had the ratchets going, you know, all the noise. And they got all these Beatles in there. Man, this is amazing. So, you know, I'm 15 years old, 115 pounds, and I'm standing there thinking, this is so cool. So I'm standing there, and this is a true statement. The place was filthy. The floor was filthy. And I see a bird laying up against the wall. And I'm not a real bold guy at 15. I'm very insecure. I don't feel confident. But I don't know, I thank the good Lord for this. I went and picked up the bird. I'm a customer, I'm 15 years old. I go pick up the bird, and I start sweeping the floor. I keep waiting for him to say, hey kid, put the broom down and get out of here. No customers allowed. But I just keep sweeping. I cleaned the entire shop. That worked pretty good. I didn't get the trash. Finally, the owner and one of the mechanics, J.O. Garcia, said, kid, come here. And I said, yes. He said, what'd you do? I said, well, I just saw the floor was dirty and I wouldn't do anything. And they started laughing. They said, well, you want a Coke? I said, yeah, I want a Coke. They bought me a Coke. So I picked up my car. I was beyond, ecstatic. I had got a chance to visit heaven. So the next day I'm on my way to the drugstore I work as a stock boy, and I pull in. I get out of my car. No one's invited me. I go back in, and I pick up the broom. And I start sweeping the floor. And they all notice me. And the owner calls me over and says, what are you doing? I said, well, I got 10 minutes before I got to be to work. And I thought if you didn't mind, I could come by every day and sweep your floor. He said, if you're going to hang out here, you need to work here. And I got a job, my dream job, as a shop boy, sweeping the floor in heaven. So the pick up the broom moment for me was actually literally a pick up the broom moment. So let me fast forward with some things about the car industry. That was my introduction. When I was in high school, I was a distributed education student, DECA. I don't know if any of you, they still even have DECA. Anybody know what that is? Okay, it was a deal in where I grew up, where you go to school half a day and you'd work half a day. Well, I needed to work, so I was a DECA student. The Volkswagen dealership in town, the authorized Volkswagen dealership, needed some help. So I got to go to work for the Volkswagen dealership. So that put me in a really good position because I was no longer working in an independent. I was working in an authorized Volkswagen dealership, and they started doing training for me. So I started training. So I continued to do this until, and I was going to college, junior college. I graduated. And then when I got my 100 hours, Dr. Kitchen said it was time to leave. It is time to leave. So I had a chance to go to El Paso, Texas, and I became a parts manager when I was 23 years old at a big Volkswagen dealership in El Paso. It was a big deal. So I enjoyed it. I loved it. I was flourishing. But I want to share with you one of the things that made a difference in my life, and I'm going to share it with you. Is it's important you continue to try to grow. Do not be complacent. Do not be content. Doesn't mean you can't be happy, but don't be content. Strive to do more. Strive to do better. So the man I worked for decided he hired an expert. And this was in the 70s, so this at this time was kind of a big deal. It's not a big deal now, but it was all about goal setting. So, you know, that term's been worn out. But I was 23 years old, and you know, you had heard from my previous experience when I was in high school. I had no goal. I had no plan. I was living from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. You know, I mean, I didn't really have a vision. So we would go in once a week at 6 o'clock in the morning, and this gentleman would talk to us about goal setting. And then if you have a goal, how to determine what a goal is, and then how to make a map to achieve the goal, and then what to do if you run into roadblocks. Well, you know, my peers, the other managers, were all upset. We're having to come in here at 6 o'clock in the morning to learn this. It's taking away from our private time. But I didn't. I was like a sponge. I thought, wow, this is so great. So I'm 23 years old. For the very first time in my life, I put down in writing my goals. Now, I don't share this a lot, but I'm going to share with you, because I take this opportunity to visit with you very, very seriously. So I thought, what's most important to me in my life? I really thought about it. And I wrote down for the first time, my most important goal in my life was to live a Christian life. That was my number one goal. My number two goal was to be a good family man, to be good to my wife and my children, which I didn't have at that time, children anyway. And then my third goal was to become a car dealer. Okay, you're 23 years old, you want to become a car dealer, you're making $600 a month. How are you going to do that? I actually wrote down, for the first time in my life, a roadmap. So everybody uses Google today, but I'm going to tell you, for your own life, you can't use Google. I would suggest to you that you write out a map on what your goals are and how you're going to get there, and then list what the obstacles are. Well, one of my obstacles for becoming a car dealer was I had no money. So how do you overcome that? I realized that the money in the car business was in sales. It wasn't in parts and service. So I had to leave my comfort zone. And I asked the gentleman I worked for, Bob Roy, could I sell cars? Why do you want to sell cars? I said, because I want to have a car dealership someday. And I know how to fix cars. I know how to sell parts for cars. I know how to work on cars. But I don't really know how to run a dealership works. So, and my path, I have to do that. So they allowed me to start selling. But let me tell you, there's obstacles. One of the obstacles I came into right away, there was pushback. The other salesman didn't want me coming. The general manager of the dealership didn't really want me coming because they saw me as a threat. And I was a threat. So they had tapes on that you used to get. Now you do everything online. In the old days, you had to go sit in a room, put in a tape, and watch the training, right? So I wasn't allowed to take the tapes home. So I would come in every morning at 6 o'clock and watch the training tapes and learn how to sell a car. I want to tell you, my message to you is have the self-discipline to continue your education, either in the classroom or in life. Don't accept where you are. Continue to move forward. It's very important. I want to tell you about the first car I sold. It's August in El Paso, Texas. It's 108 degrees. The pavement is 120. And we had, back in those days in the car system, it's called an up system, where you would actually sit at the desk and watch for a customer. And when a customer came on the lot, it was your turn to go get that customer. And you had a little list, you had to write down your name until you had your turn. So I'm new, the experienced salesman, see a guy on the lot and say, "Hey Steve, you want an up?" It's 108 or 110 outside. And I said, "Sure." I'm saying, why would they let me take the up? So I go out on the lot, and the guy's a sergeant from the Sergeant Major's Academy, Fort Bliss. I mean, he's a real deal. I'm like 26 at the time. This guy's 40. I mean, he's rock solid, wearing the uniform, intimidating as hell. And I go up to him and I said, "How may I be of service?" He said, "I'm interested in a Volkswagen diesel." "Yes, sir, I'll help you." So, the car he wanted was lost. No one came out to help me move cars. They all stood in the showroom and laughed and laughed and laughed. I ran back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, getting the keys, moving cars. Finally, it's 8 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in a closing booth with this Sergeant Major, and I am totally exhausted, mentally fatigued. And I look at him and I said, "Sir, I don't know what to do next." He says, "Young man, you're supposed to ask me if I want to buy the car." "Do you want to buy the car?" "Yes." So, I sold him the car. When the manager came to me, he said, "Steve," he said, "I got to tell you, that guy's been here 5 different times. He's wore everybody out. He told me today, he didn't come in to buy a car. He bought a car because he'd never seen anyone work as hard in his life for him as you. That's why he bought a car." Which goes back to point number 1 I made. Be passionate. Be a winner. Don't give up. If you do those things, it will give you a huge advantage in life over your competition. I will tell you that one of the other things that's helped me in my career, I mentioned to you, that I aspire to be a Christian. Do I fall short? Oh boy, often. And everybody does. But I have a moral compass. And I challenge all of you to have a moral compass. You don't have to be a Christian, but you need to have a moral compass. You need to know right from wrong. And it's not about what you can get away with. It always is what's right. Just simply do the right thing. One of the things that helped me in my career is I was surrounded by people who didn't have a moral compass. I was selling cars at this Volkswagen dealership, and there was a gentleman named Klaus Noter, great guy, and he was the heir apparent for the dealership. He was German, good looking, in charge. But Klaus made a major mistake. He lost his moral compass, and he got involved with one of the sales girls. And so one of the opportunities for me was, because he did that, he got fired, and I had a chance. But I will tell you, that happens throughout life. If you continue to do the right thing, you will be rewarded. You may not know that you will be rewarded, but you will get noticed for doing the right thing. And the other thing is that, pick up the broom woman I talked to you about, is always do the best you can, not the least you can. I have so many people that come to me and they're frustrated because they didn't get promoted, or, I think, well, what did you do to distinguish yourself from everybody else? Well, I've been here for 5 years. Well, you've done nothing in 5 years to distinguish yourself. You were a competitor in life. That's why I say you're lining up on the front line. As you go into your life, you're going to be a competitor. You need to be prepared to win. You got to have the passion to win. You got to do the homework to win. And if you do, then you're going to get the advantage. It doesn't come instantly. I'm reminded I had a friend of mine wanted me to hire his son-in-law who had played baseball at UT. I mean, the guy was a top athlete, good-looking guy. And I have a policy: don't hire anybody you can't fire. So okay, so I hired the kid, and dynamic young man. He was just doing great, and he was selling cars and doing well. After about 3 months, he started losing. And so I pulled him aside and I said, I'm going to use the name John. I said, John, what's going on? He said, Steve, I've been here for 3 months. Yeah. He said, I'm just getting tired. So why are you getting tired? He says, well, you wouldn't understand. Okay, why wouldn't I understand? But I want to be successful. I said, well, I kind of understand that concept. I want to be successful too. He said, yeah, but I don't want to wait till I'm old like you. So my story to you is be patient on your journey. It's not going to happen overnight. When you talk about the moral compass, I told you I had failures. In each case where I had a failure, I had someone I loved and trusted who lost their moral compass. It wasn't because we made bad business decisions. It wasn't because we didn't have a valid plan. It's because the person I relied upon lost their moral compass. So always be aware, listen to your heart, but don't ignore your head. There will be warning signals. So in closing, I want to share with you so much, but just want to share this with you. One of the things that really helped me throughout my life, I always had trouble sleeping, and because my mind would be racing at night. I had so many thoughts. So I learned to do 2 things, or 3 things really, that helped me. Is before I would go to bed, and this is before, now I use my iPhone. I really have progressed to the 21st century. I can't use my iPhone. But I used to use a yellow pad, and I would write down everything on my mind. Everything I want to do. Just write it down. And that was my to-do list for the next day. And the other thing I would do, I learned to do is, after I went to that Mercedes-Benz training, I learned to do a self-evaluation. Say, how did I do today? I'm not lying to anybody. I'm not sharing with anybody. I evaluate to myself, how did I do? So I wrote down everything I want to do, and then I reviewed for myself, how did I do? Was I polite to everybody? Was I nice to everybody? Did I take the time to listen? Did I return my phone calls? And be honest with yourself. Do a self-evaluation. And the third thing I did every night that's helped me, and I share with you, I pray. So, thank you very much for your time and listening. And I will, I guess I'll open this up for questions if that's what.
Are there any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So I came from the car dealership too. Because I came from customer satisfaction, very hard, especially in that line of business.
Yes.
What's something that you would say to put on a daily task to help your customer satisfaction ratings?
They help my customer satisfaction. One of the things that is so important to do is listen. And if you're in any retail business, one of the fallacies is that people don't listen to what the customer is saying, and they move too quick. So what we try to do is I try to do is listen to the customer. And one thing I will tell you, it's hard to do when if you have a customer who's upset, Have you been in retail?
Oh, for like 4 years before I decided to come to college.
Yeah, okay. So you ran into situations where the customer was unreasonable or upset, and the hardest thing for me was I would try to cut them off and engage them too quickly. So what I've learned to do, and it helped a lot, even when I couldn't satisfy, I would just sit back and let them. And then one of the tools I learned is that when I would start to respond, they would start cutting me off, you know. So I would say, okay, tell me when it's my turn. I said, what do you mean? I said, I will listen to you. And then people responded to that and let them calm down. But I think that to summarize is really be in tune with that customer. That nobody else matters. Ignore your iPhone. You know, just really tune into that customer and be honest. Just be honest. I think back where there's been major mistakes we've made, and I've had some of my employees come to me with these horrible things that we've done. And they say, what are we going to do? And I say, we're going to tell the truth. We're going to tell the truth. Yeah, we put the wrong pistons in the car. We took the radio and gave it to somebody else. I mean, you know, just tell the truth. You know. But thank you for your question. Thank you.
Any other questions? We only have time for maybe one or two more.
Okay.
So whenever you were, I'm guessing the head of sales, like when you moved up, how did you know that it was time to jump into having your own dealership? How did you know that you were ready to move up that far? That's a big step.
That's a great question, and thank you for it. So my dad was a disabled vet from World War II, and we had no money. When I was 18 years old, I'm sitting in the backyard with my dad, and he gave me some of the best advice I ever had. He says, Steve, you're a hard worker. I don't have any money. You don't have any money. Try to get an opportunity where you can build equity in a company. So I'm the sales manager in El Paso. I'm 27 years old. And my partner, well, he wasn't my partner at the time, had bought a dealership in Santa Fe, and the dealership had gotten in trouble. So he called me and asked me to go run the dealership, and this was a very important point. He says, I want you to come to Santa Fe and run the dealership. I said, Bob, I'm going to be your partner. He said, I'll be my partner. Yes, sir. He said, you have any money? I embellished. I said, I have $4,000, but I can only pay you $2,000 down, and I did terms of it. A true story. He sold me 4%. But thank you for that question. It was part of my presentation. I forgot. But look for opportunities, but you got to be bold. And it was really hard. And it's different today. It's so hard. I mean, the groundwork has changed. The numbers for car dealerships today are through the roof. So, you know, but thank you. No, it was just part of my path when I wrote my goals. My goals were that I would hopefully build enough money someday I could buy a small dealership in a very small community. I never dreamt that I would have a chance to be part of a major dealership. And then the partnership flourished, and we added some franchises. But that was an important step. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you all.